Tonight, Iran urged not to retaliate after Israeli strikes on military sites. Good evening and welcome to ABC News Victoria. I'm Tamara, Oudyn. Also tonight, a man dies after a stabbing in central Geelong. The LNP secures victory in a rollercoaster Queensland election. And Victoria's untapped regions. The government's housing pipeline hits a blockage. Australia has joined the United States in voicing its hope that Israeli airstrikes on Iran will be the end of retaliatory attacks between the two countries. Israel says that its bombing was precise and targeted at military sites, and Iran claims there was only limited damage but said 4 of its soldiers were killed.
In the early hours of Saturday morning, 100 Israeli fighter jets set out on their mission. Israel says it hit 20 missile manufacturing and military sites across the country, some near the capital, Tehran. The mission codenamed Days of Repentance, following a barrage of Iranian missiles fired at Israel earlier this month. Its closest ally, the United States, was given a heads up.
It looks like they didn't hit anything other than military targets. My hope is this is the end.
Images posted on social media show emergency crews at this building. Iran playing down the damage from the strikes, but confirming 4 soldiers were killed. Israel is insisting the targets were chosen in line with its national interest and not because of pressure from Washington, as implied by the White House. In Tel Aviv, some Israelis believe the strikes were justified.
It was a good action, but we need to keep it calm. We don't need to get the escalation going.
We need to respond very hard, very quick.
Australia is in lockstep with the US, urging Tehran not to hit back again.
Israel, of course, has a right to retaliate for the attacks that took place from Iran. What I do is join with the US Secretary of State, join with Prime Minister Starmer to continue to work towards a de-escalation in the Middle East.
How Iran responds from here is being watched closely around the world. State media is reporting the country's foreign minister is saying there are no limits as to how far Iran will go to defend itself. The calculation from here is strike back and risk further escalation with Israel, or hold fire and deal with Israel's belief that it's secured a strategic win.
And just hours after the strike, proof Israel is refusing to let up in its attacks against Hezbollah. The IDF releasing vision of a massive strike in southern Lebanon on what it claims was an underground compound. The explosion so large, it triggered earthquake warnings across Lebanon and northern Israel.
And Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran is in Jerusalem for us this evening. Matt, what can we take from the timing of the strikes?
Tamara, good evening. We know that the United States had been in the ear of Israel for some time, urging any strike on Iran to target military assets and not the country's energy or indeed nuclear facilities. And Israel has done just that 10 days out from the US presidential election. We know that that poll will have a significant influence on the multiple conflicts here in the Middle East. Donald Trump, for example, likely to take a far harder stance on the issue of Iran than Joe Biden and his would-be heir Kamala Harris, and that could give Israel a bit more leeway in the future if indeed it decides to strike Iran once more. These latest strikes have also occurred just days ahead of the expected restarting of ceasefire and hostage negotiations to do with Gaza, with negotiations expected to kick off in the Qatari capital of Doha in a matter of days, the first since the killing of the Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar by Israel more than a week ago. However, Tamara, it is yet to be seen whether either side will be prepared to negotiate.
Matthew Doran in Jerusalem, thank you. A 20-year-old man has died and 2 others have been injured in an alleged fight in Geelong this morning. The Homicide squad has launched an investigation which shut down a large part of the city for most of the day. Local businesses say assaults have become common and they're pleading for help to end the violence.
City streets cut off after a young man's life was cut short. Police say the 20-year-old was fatally stabbed in a fight near Geelong's entertainment precinct this morning, sparking a homicide investigation.
20-year-old is just, it's just devastating.
The crime scene stretched hundreds of metres through the heart of the city. Yellow evidence markers followed a trail of blood along Little Mallop Street, where paramedics treated the victim just before 6 this morning. He was rushed to hospital but couldn't be saved.
Very sad, because even myself, all us young people go out last night and, we didn't think something like that would happen.
Police say 2 other men allegedly involved in the fight took themselves to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. It's unclear if they knew the victim or what sorts of weapons were used. As police searched for answers, loved ones searched for solace, arriving at the scene in shock and in tears. Online, locals shared their heartbreak, remembering the victim as a beautiful kid taken way too soon. Local business owners say they're saddened but not surprised.
The amount of assaults that are happening down here is just ridiculous. The cops are doing nothing about it. Something needs to happen, and it needs to happen now.
To prevent future tragedies like this one.
Forensic officers have spent hours meticulously covering every inch of this crime scene, but given its sheer size, it's an enormous task. It means this main city street is closed indefinitely.
The investigation is far from over. So far, no one has been charged. Cyan Valance, ABC News, Geelong.
David Crisafulli is set to be sworn in as Queensland's 41st Premier after claiming victory in the state election. The Liberal National Party looks like it'll form a majority government, ending Labor's 9-year reign. One of the new Premier's key promises was to introduce adult time for adult crime before Christmas.
We've got a job to do.
A light gym workout before Queensland's Premier-elect got down to business.
So we're off to work.
So were these shredding trucks, pulling into government headquarters ahead of the changing of the guard. The LNP's victory, ending Labor's nearly 10-year reign, still sinking in.
In historic terms, I said it was like climbing a mountain. Well, it was like climbing a mountain weighed down with a backpack and in the sleeting snow.
Congratulations coming from Canberra.
Not only did I speak with the Prime Minister, he was good enough to afford me about 20 minutes this morning.
It was a jubilant night for the LNP, nerves turning to elation as seats turned blue. He reiterated his mandate: youth crime, health, housing and cost of living, and promised to work for all.
To the people of this great state, I've lived and I've worked at both ends of it, and I love every inch of it.
Stephen Miles had already addressed the party faithful.
If you consider what we were up against, this is an extraordinary result.
But this was no concession speech.
It is clear that that hasn't been enough to secure a majority of seats for Labor. And also that the LNP is unlikely to have a majority.
In the light of day, Stephen Miles had reassessed as he surveyed the damage in the regions. The post-mortem is underway.
Our team will need to do the work of reconnecting with Queenslanders, particularly regional Queenslanders.
Mr Miles keen to be opposition leader.
I'm not taking anything for granted, and I will let our caucus members decide who leads them.
There's plenty of soul-searching for the Greens, which has failed to make any gains.
Stephen Miles managed to recover some vote, and he managed to hold us off in some of those inner city seats by picking up our policies and directly offering them to Queenslanders.
The outgoing Premier acknowledging it's been a hard-fought campaign.
I'm sure you'll all understand my desire to get to the pub.
Kate McKenna, ABC News, Brisbane.
Federal Labor is playing down any hard lessons from the defeat in Queensland, even pointing to positives in its political battle with the Greens. The coalition is celebrating the win, even if the state LNP doesn't support its key nuclear power policy.
A warm reception for Anthony Albanese.
How are you?
shaking hands and shooting selfies at the Norton Street Italian Festa in Sydney.
Good on you. Thank you so much.
Enjoying the embrace of some loyal supporters after a bruising night for Labor up north.
The outcome was much better for Queensland Labor than what was anticipated just weeks ago, let alone months ago.
Federal Labor insists the loss wasn't as brutal as it might have been, putting it down to an it's time factor and concerns over law and order. And it sees green shoots appearing where the Greens' vote is falling. The party's vote drops steeply in parts of inner Brisbane.
There's a big message in this result for Adam Bandt.
These people are extremists and they're being found out for what it is. And so I think there's a big message there.
The coalition is similarly thrilled with the Greens' struggles, but it's again facing questions over its nuclear policy and how that fits with an LNP government opposed to nuclear power.
The fact that we've got rid of Stephen Miles means that we'll be able to have that sensible conversation in a constructive way.
The federal coalition wants to build 7 nuclear reactors on the sites of existing coal-fired power plants around the country. 2 are in Queensland. David Littleproud argues if the coalition wins office, the states, including Queensland, will have to fall into line.
We have to set an energy grid for the East Coast and South Australia and Tasmania, and we need all the states, no matter their political persuasions, to respect the decision of the Australian people.
The Queensland election delivered lessons across the federal political spectrum. Labor might argue it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but results in the regions will give it plenty to worry about. The coalition can claim a win, but there's no endorsement of its key nuclear policy. And the Greens have to wonder if playing hard politics in Canberra is paying off. Tom Lowry, ABC News, Canberra.
The state government has continued its week-long blitz of housing announcements with a pledge to fast-track approvals for townhouses and apartments. Planning Minister Sonia Kilkenny says from next year, the state government will grant quicker approvals to residential developments that are deemed to be well designed. Projects that meet the criteria of modern construction methods, sustainability and livability would be fast-tracked through the planning process, reducing the average approval time from 12 months down to 4. Victorians would also be given the opportunity to provide feedback on how the buildings should look.
We'll include things like amenity, aesthetic value, the outside, the inside, the things that make a good home a really great home.
There's simply no substance to any of the announcements that Premier Jacinta Allen has made on housing over the last week. There's no beef, there's not even any gravy, there's only the smell of gravy.
Regional Victoria will play a key part in Labor's plan to build 800,000 new homes over the next decade. But in many rural areas, critical infrastructure like water and sewerage simply aren't available to support those developments. Now, developers are warning that if the money isn't put up for connecting the regions to water, thousands of homes won't be built.
When Lauren Palmer and her young family moved into a new home in the northeast Victorian town of Tangambalanga, the lack of water pressure became an instant problem.
When the pressure's bad, so especially in summer, in that sort of evening time when everyone's getting tea ready, it's terrible.
The expensive sprinkler system they had installed barely works. She's had to buy a new washing machine that runs on low water pressure, and the bath took so long to fill they stopped using it.
So we've given up on that entirely and the bath's now used as storage.
Now the future of her new community is uncertain.
Building in this Tangambalanga estate has come to the end of the road. This street should be leading to at least 200 new homes. But without the guarantee of adequate water and sewerage infrastructure, construction has quite literally come to a dead end.
We could have substantially developed the balance of the estate over that period of time if we'd had the appropriate water infrastructure here.
Water infrastructure issues are putting a halt on crucial housing developments across the region. A 10-minute drive away in Leneva, this paddock is ready to house 400 new homes, and developers say they could build thousands more, but those plans are on hold.
We're ready to go here in terms of we've got an approved development plan. We don't have the pipes to connect to.
The need for more pipes here has been known by council and state agencies for years, but the water corporations charged with providing them simply don't have the money to do so.
I think we would say that there needs to be more funding for critical infrastructure, particularly for the next 10 years to cater for growth.
These estates are a crucial part of the state government's target of building 800,000 homes in a decade. It approved an emergency increase in some water corporations' debt caps last year and says it remains on track to deliver its promise.
This is work that will continue with the Planning Minister, with local councils and, of course, on the really important issues of essential infrastructure.
But developers don't share in that confidence.
The only way these problems can be resolved in any sort of reasonable time frame is for state government to step up and provide extra funding to enable the infrastructure to be developed.
Lauren Palmer just wants to see her new neighbourhood grow.
Until they can fix the water issue, I don't see it happening.
Erin Somerville, ABC News, Tangambalanga.
There's now just over a week left before Americans go to the polls and for the two parties to get voters on side. Young people are a key target. Previously, they've tended to be Democrat supporters, but recent polling suggests a divide. Donald Trump's masculine campaign is striking a chord with young men, while Kamala Harris's stance on abortion rights is being embraced by young women. North America correspondent Carrington Clark reports from North Carolina.
Since 1853, North Carolina's state fair has drawn in the crowds. But even here, you can't totally escape another important contest.
I early voted to ensure that my voice was heard.
One of them's crazy and the other one's ridiculous. I'm not going to say which one's which.
North Carolina's 16 electoral college votes represent a competitively sought-after prize. One of the so-called 7 swing states which will determine this year's election. It's the only in the group won by Donald Trump at the last election, so represents a pick-up opportunity for Kamala Harris this year. To get those necessary votes, Donald Trump has increasingly used non-traditional media to target a specific market, young men, appearing with digital stars, the Nelk Boys, and comedian Theo Von.
No, I would just do cocaine. That was really, yeah.
There were plenty of young men in attendance at this Trump rally in Greenville, North Carolina, including 23-year-old Jack Lawrence.
They want to bring back the masculine face that you saw back in the 60s and 70s with American men. Just strong men providing for their family.
Young Americans usually break heavily for Democrats, but recent polling suggests Trump's hyper-masculine campaign is working to attract Gen Z men across to the Republicans.
To go home.
Kamala Harris is trying to reach young women where they are, including the massive Call Her Daddy podcast.
There are now 20 states with Trump abortion bans.
I think young men are gravitating towards Trump at an astounding degree, and I think that young women are rallying for Kamala Harris.
The Democrats are hoping to encourage enough young women to get to the polls to offset any weakness with young men.
I think that reproductive rights are on the ballot. I think they're rallying to say that we feel like we're losing our autonomy, we feel like our agency is being threatened and challenged, and that is something to vote for, that is something to fight for.
With the race still an effective dead heat, it may be a battle of the sexes that determines the next president of the United States. Carrington Clark, ABC News, North Carolina.
Japanese voters are going to the polls for an election that'll determine whether the ruling LDP retains its grip on power. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba called the election earlier this month, just 3 days after he took over from his predecessor amid a corruption scandal. The Liberal Democratic Party, which has been in power almost continuously since 1955, has seen its approval rating dip below 20% in recent months. Today's election could see the party lose its majority. Cost of living is front of mind for Japanese voters, as well as concern about political corruption. Back home now, and as the weather heats up and Australians return to the beach, many swimmers are still haunted by a spate of shark attacks last summer. In South Australia, there were 6 bites in just over 6 months. 3 of them were fatal, and all were believed to be from great whites. This year marks 25 years since great white sharks became protected in Australian waters. But the recent spike in attacks has many questioning whether protecting the predators is costing human lives. Lincoln Rothall and Shay Chorley travelled to South Australia's Eyre Peninsula for this report.
The beaches and breaks around the tiny town of Elliston are world class.
The reason that we live out here so far away from everything is because of the surf.
But along with the dolphins and seals, the surfers know they share the waves with something else.
The huge white pointers are unpredictable, terrifying and ferocious monsters.
Great white sharks have always drawn fascination and fear, hunted to the edge of extinction.
She weighed in at 1,000.
In 1999, great whites were declared a protected species.
Simon Baccanello remains missing.
But 2024, the 25th anniversary of that protection, was a grim milestone in South Australia.
Shark attack. A surfer still missing after a suspected encounter.
6 attacks in 8 months, 3 of them fatal. 2 were in the tiny community of Elliston.
The first attack was when we lost Simon.
Teacher Simon Baccanello had just moved to town.
We were surfing with him when he was taken, and that just rocked all of us. He was just so loved at the school. He was just stoked to be here.
As the community grieved, the town experienced a second trauma.
A 64-year-old man is recovering in hospital after the 6th shark attack in South Australian waters in little more than 6 months.
Murray Adams taught alongside Simon at the local school and survived the bite. Now, many are questioning whether protecting great whites is costing human lives.
We started protecting him and then we just left it at that. And sometimes I feel like we as surfers and ocean users are just left as cannon fodder.
In the waters off the Neptune Islands, around 200 kilometres south of Elliston, Flinders University ecologist Charlie Houveniers is trying to better understand great white numbers. He's collecting genetic samples for population modelling.
But the range is actually quite broad, going from about 1,200 to a bit more than 3,000 adult white sharks.
Professor Houveniers says there's no scientific evidence that shark numbers have recovered, and even if they had, it wouldn't explain the recent attacks.
We don't know what happened in South Australia in that summer of 2023-2024. It was an unusual cluster of shark bites, but we're actually seeing these kind of cluster of bites regularly happening, not just in Australia, but across the world.
Houveniers says policies for population recovery need to be matched with appropriate mitigation, arguing that culling sharks is not an effective way to protect swimmers, compared to a range of new technologies like barriers, real-time warning systems, shark deterrents, and drones. In the shadow of newly installed trauma kits, the surfers of Elliston have returned to the ocean that has taken so much.
It's so wild how much the ocean has been imperative to our recovery as well. Yeah, getting back into the water and just that is what getting back to normal life looks like for us too.
A way of life worth saving. Lincoln Rothall, ABC News, Elliston.
The race is on to secure the final 2 spots of the AFLW Finals series after the Western Bulldogs pulled off an upset win over Euroke. The Saints were left to rue missed opportunities as the Dogs held on in a thrilling 1-point come-from-behind win.
A back-and-forth battle in Ballarat, Saints coach Nick Del Santo aware what was on the line. 2 goals either side of half-time gave the Saints some breathing room.
Squeezed it in! Only took 15 seconds and the Saints have got their 4th.
But the Dogs kicked into gear and the Saints felt the pressure, letting slip 2 late chances.
Less than a minute to play to give her side the lead. She hasn't got the purchase she wants.
The Bulldogs hanging on in a match decided by the barest of margins, ending any chance of the Saints making finals. With the men's premiership coach in the crowd, the women put on a show. Taylor Smith added 3 to her tally.
It's a Lions fiesta in Springfield.
The home side dominating, kicking 11 majors for the match. The Swans couldn't find an answer, goalless for 3 quarters. Brisbane comfortably home and into third on the ladder with a 68-point win. Collingwood has had a disappointing and injury-hit season, but the Pies were out to salvage some pride in a fourth-quarter fight with Carlton.
Collingwood are in front.
But whatever Collingwood did, the Blues did better and secured the 4-point win.
Flying pin.
Dreamtime in Darwin was a headline act even before the first bounce. And once the footy started, the spectacle only got better. Essendon was looking good, leading for most of the second half.
It's Georgia G. Bombers out to a game-high 11-point lead.
The Tigers refusing to go away, and with 75 seconds left on the clock, the skipper stepped up.
It's Soccer Troop!
All square in a thrilling and frantic finish. The Bombers are now at risk of falling out of the 8, and both sides were left dealing with serious injuries. Essendon ruck Steph Wells hurting her knee, Tigers forward Sarah Hoskins her hamstring. Alexia Pesce, ABC News.
World-renowned photographer Spencer Tunick is back in Australia, and for his latest work he's turned his lens on Brisbane. The River City has set the scene for the largest crowd he's attracted in this country, more than 5,000 people stripped off in the name of art.
The Story Bridge laid bare. Gloomy weather didn't stop thousands taking off their clothes for American photographer Spencer Tunick.
We were able to, fill the bridge just how I had envisioned.
Crowds gathered in light rain from 3 a.m, closing the bridge and surrounding areas. Access was controlled. Security kept a watchful eye.
Unbelievably, Brisbane is not that conservative when it comes to, real humans and the body and art.
Some rivergoers got a full-on view as the LGBTQ+ celebration continued.
It's been incredible, and it just feels actually really normal. I think when I first took my clothes off, it was like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? And then getting down in these poses, like in this little crouch position, I'm just like, oh my God.
For me, it was all about inclusivity and just showing that, we're all the same.
Organisers say 5,425 people derobed for the Story Bridge shoot, an Australian attendance record for the New York-based photographer who has shot at locations like Bondi Beach and the Sydney Opera House.
The finished piece will be revealed to the public at a time in due course, and we're not going to reveal yet where that's going to happen.
Some participants couldn't wait to strip off again.
Maybe the Gold Coast beach would be a great idea, just for example, because it's such a big, beautiful area as well, or maybe up in the Barrier Reef would be great.
A stark challenge for another visit. Toby Loftus, ABC News, Brisbane.
To the weather now, and last night minimum temperatures mainly ranged from 8 to 11 degrees. It was coldest at Mount Hotham, where it got down to 2. Today it was partly cloudy and dry across the state, with a cooler southwesterly change that pushed into southwestern districts. Temperature-wise, it was warm. The state's top of 32 was recorded at Hopeton, Oudyn and Mildura and Swan Hill. In Melbourne, we hit our high of 25.7 degrees at 2:30 this afternoon. In the city now, it's 19. Interstate today, it was mostly cloudy in Sydney and Hobart, mainly fine in Adelaide and Darwin. Brisbane had a few showers, and it was sunny in Perth. The satellite image is showing high clouds streaming from the Kimberley region of WA down to northern New South Wales. A low cloud is sitting over the southern coasts of WA, South Australia, Victoria and southern New South Wales. A trough is moving towards Victoria's east, and a high pressure system in the Bight will extend a ridge over the state tomorrow. A front will bring showers and the odd storm to eastern New South Wales and Queensland, and there'll be showers and storms over the northern tropics and in WA. For the capital cities tomorrow, there are showers ahead for Brisbane and Darwin. It'll be cloudy in Hobart and Sydney, sunny in Perth, mainly fine in Canberra, and cloud will clear in Adelaide. Back home, it'll be cool and partly cloudy in the south tomorrow, with a few showers possible in the morning. Dry, mild to warm and mostly sunny across the north with high fire danger in the Mallee. Temperatures will be about average across the state and winds light to moderate south to southwesterly. On the bay, a 10 to 15 knot west to southwesterly will turn southerly and get up to 20 knots in the morning, waves to 1 metre, and there's a strong wind warning for the Central Coast and the Central and East Gippsland coasts. Monday in Melbourne will be partly cloudy with a top of just 17, down to 12 tonight. And looking ahead, Tuesday, cloudy 18, Wednesday partly cloudy 20, Thursday and Friday a possible shower, partly cloudy on Saturday and a shower or two on Sunday. And that's it for this evening's bulletin from the news team for the moment. Good night.